Hey guys, I am Nicole Schlechter with Nicole Schlechter Advocacy, and I'm here tonight to talk to you guys about data collection. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you're following my Facebook page. I'm giving out all kinds of free information over there to help you navigate special education, especially in this tricky time that we're all dealing with when it comes to school right now. So tonight's topic is going to be, again, about data collection. And so this is something that's traditionally left up to the school to collect, but in this new world of remote learning, you have become the teacher. Or better yet, you guys have become the learning coach. Your role is to help facilitate learning opportunities at home. Since COVID started, we have this unique opportunity to see how our children are learning best. Things that we felt like were important before last year or before COVID are maybe no longer a priority. IEP teams are only able to collect data on what they see inside of their screen. So it's going to be your job as a parent and a learning coach to help fill in the gaps and make sure that when we all return to school, your child is still able to make progress. Our goal in collecting this data is to make sure that we're documenting any kind of behaviors that we're seeing, any kind of progress that we're seeing, any kind of struggles that we're seeing, and we're reporting this back to the school so that one, we have documentation, and two, we know where the troubled areas are so that we can better support them. And three, so that we're keeping in constant communication with the school. Because again, they only see what they can see from behind their computer. They're not sitting there with your student while they're rolling on the floor and not wanting to do work, which is real life at my house sometimes. And I'm sure sometimes at yours too. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about ways to document this, what that documentation should look like, and how you can communicate that with the school. If you haven't yet, there's a link in the comments that is a taking data at home little cheat sheet for you guys. I included some remote learning tips in there also. So if you guys are still remote learning and you're struggling with that, I included a lot of tips in there for you guys to try and troubleshoot that. So when we're talking about taking data at home, there's a couple different areas that we want to focus on. A lot of the things that I'm hearing from parents is that they're struggling with behavior at home. And if you're struggling with behavior, whether that's task avoidant behavior or unexpected behaviors, defiant kind of behaviors, whatever that looks like for you, some of the things that we want to focus on are time on task. So how long are they attending to each task? How much time are they sitting there unable to attend due to their disability or due to the behavior? Maybe the behavior is a part of their disability. So how long are they able to focus, and how much time are they spending actually learning? Are they actually invested and engaged? How much time are they actually spending learning? So when we're taking data, regardless of what that data is on, we want to make sure that we're taking the date down and we're writing down our observations. We want to keep these observations as specific and non-emotional as possible, which can be really hard as a parent because it is easy to write down, my child spent 5 minutes on task and spent the rest of the time asking for snacks and trying to walk away from the computer and trying to avoid the task. It's really easy to be specific about that, but we want to talk about those hard numbers, like how much time, what is the actual number? And then we're going to write it down. And some days this is going to be really easy because they're going to be engaged and focused and spending a lot of time paying attention to the instructions. Other days, we're going to spend a lot of time writing down 5 minutes on task and then 10 minutes not on task, 10 minutes redirecting behavior. Another thing that we want to take data on is redirections. How many times are you redirecting them during a Zoom call? For some of your kids, they're on Zoom all day. Some of them are on Zoom for short chunks throughout the day. So whatever that looks like for you, what does the redirection look like? This is a really easy one to do if you just make a tally system. Like, this is how many times during this 1 hour time block I had to redirect. Just a little tally system to keep track of that. Task completion is another area that we can focus on when we're talking about taking data at home. Task completion is important because we're not looking at grades, but we want to pay attention to how long a task is taking them and how many tasks they're actually completing. Notice I didn't say how many tasks are they turning in, how many assignments are they turning in. I'm not saying how many are they getting right on this homework assignment. We want to look at task completion. And if you guys have been hanging around for a while, you've heard me say it before, but I want to make sure that we're giving credit to our kids for the effort that they put into school, not just how many answers they're getting right. Because how discouraging is it if you've worked your butt off for 20 minutes to get done 10 math problems and you do them right and you try your best, but the assignment's for 20 and you fail the assignment because you couldn't finish the rest? That doesn't set you up for success after that. That makes you want to not do that task again. So I want to focus on rewarding the positive behavior and talking about task completion. Are they completing the task? Are they attending to the task while they're trying hard? We're not focused on grades. Turning in assignments is a whole nother book, because I think a lot of the times kids are, I mean, I know I'm overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed with how many links they have to click on. Some assignments are turned in through Seesaw. Some assignments are turned in through email. Some assignments are turned in on turnitin.com. That's really overwhelming for me as a parent when I'm turning in assignments for my kindergarten and first grader. For our kids that are a little bit older and are doing this on their own, it's especially if they're dealing with executive functioning delays, this is a really difficult thing to turn in homework. And so then they get frustrated because they've worked really hard to do the homework and then they didn't turn it in. So we want to take data at home on task completion, because they might have 10 missing assignments at school, but you know that they did these assignments, and we want to give them credit for it because we want to reward the positive behavior. And if we can identify that they are able to complete the task, or that they're able to attend to the task for 20 minutes and work hard to complete it, but they're not able to turn it in, then we know exactly where we need to provide them more support. So another area that we want to talk about is unexpected behavior. Sometimes this could be challenging behavior at home, or defiant behavior, task avoidance, anything that is not that is a behavior that is not following the expectations of Zoom or remote learning. We want to take note of what those are, what date those are happening, what time they're happening during the day, what's happening in the environment around them. All of those things are going to be really important. When we're in school and we're dealing with some of these unexpected behaviors, a lot of the times the school will do that FBA, that functional behavior assessment. We're at home, we can't really do a formal FBA. So what I'm asking you to do is kind of an informal functional behavior assessment. And if you guys aren't sure what that is, head on over to my website. There is a 4-part series, real quick, less than an hour, for you guys to learn all about how to handle challenging behavior at school. NicoleSchlechter.com, it's up over there. But when we're talking about that functional behavior assessment, one of the things that we look at is we identify a behavior that we feel like needs to change, or a behavior that isn't expected in the classroom. And then we determine what the antecedent is to that behavior. What happened before that behavior? What was the cause of that behavior? What was the trigger to that behavior? And then once we've identified that, then we identify what the consequences of that behavior. What are they gaining from that? Or what are they losing from that kind of behavior? And once we've identified these things and we can determine if this is a skill deficit or a performance deficit at home, we are going to be able to figure out how we can better support them. One of the things that I talk about all the time is that behavior is communication. So if your child every day at 10 a.m. is rolling on the floor, asking for a snack, taking breaks to the bathroom, turning off their camera from Zoom, if it's a fight every day at 10 o'clock and it's math, then maybe they're avoiding the math work. And if we're focused on the behavior, the rolling on the floor and the avoiding and the going to the bathroom, and we're saying, no, you're going to sit here and you're going to do this, we aren't identifying what that need is that they have that we're not meeting. Whatever that unmet need is, we aren't reading behavior as communication. We're just saying, you're going to do it my way because this is the way that it's expected of you. But if we can identify what the reason is behind the behavior, what that antecedent is, we can figure out what they're trying to gain from the behavior and how we can better support it. If they're melting down every day at 10 o'clock during math, is math too hard? Is math too long? Do they not feel engaged in math? Are they overwhelmed? Do they feel anxious about it? I mean, there are so many different possibilities. If we know that they're feeling overwhelmed because they don't feel connected to the teacher, they have questions, they're confused, but they're afraid to ask them, we can provide them supports that they need in order to change that behavior. So that's going to be a really important one for you guys. But again, we want to be really specific. How many times did they do this? How many days are we seeing this behavior? What time is this happening at? Very specific, hard data. Because if we're just filling these observations with rolling on the floor, there's nothing to measure that off of. And if we're just, again, focused on that behavior, it's really hard to identify how we're going to better support them if we don't know what the antecedent is and why they're doing that, what that unmet need is. So the last thing that I want you guys to be taking data on is IEP goal progress. So I want you guys to flip through your IEPs, head to the IEP goals. IEP annual goals are reviewed once a year. Typically, sometimes we're having IEP meetings throughout the year and they can be reviewed more, but they're reviewed once a year. And throughout the year, usually around report card time, the school should be sending you progress reports on how your child is progressing towards meeting that goal. Annual goals are written for a year out. So we're saying in October of 2021, we think your child will be able to meet this goal at this standard. Specific. If you guys are following my blog, there's a bunch up there about annual goals and how to write goals. So I definitely encourage you to go check that out. But we want to make sure that those goals are written specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. Those SMART goals are really important. So once we've figured out what goals we have at school, what goals are a priority for us right now, what we wrote in that annual goal, we want to determine how we can take data on that at home. If these are speech goals or physical therapy goals and you're not getting in-person physical therapy right now, again, a separate issue because you should still be getting all of the things that are in your child's IEP. It's going to be hard for you guys to take data on this at home. But if this goal is a self-advocacy goal, or this goal is a behavior goal, or it's a social emotional goal, it might be a little bit easier for you to take data. So I want you guys to reach out to your school and say, hey, here's my child's annual goal. I know that you guys are limited in what you can do behind a computer screen. So how can I help you? How can I take data on this at home? I'm going to be willing to bet that your school has not reached out to you and told you to take data. And they probably won't encourage you to take data. But I'm also willing to bet that when you show up to the IEP table and you say, no, I don't think this goal is appropriate anymore. Here's my observations over 6 weeks of school. Here's what I observed. Here's what I think is important. Your team's going to listen to you because you're the one at home learning with your child. So we want to be taking IEP goal progress, marking that progress. Again, we want to be specific. We want dates. We want times. We want numbers of how many times we're seeing this. All of that is going to be really important. So the great part about taking data at home is that when you return to school or you go to your next IEP meeting and you show up with this data and you say, I think my child needs XYZ, and here's the data to support that, it's really hard for a school to tell you no. So just this week, I had an IEP meeting for a child who to put it lightly, was very much failed in his IEP for a number of years before I got involved. They were just not meeting his needs, and I don't put that on the teachers completely, because I think as a teacher, you go into this with best intentions and you see a child struggling and you want to support them, but there's also a limit on what you're able to offer the child, because you have to get approval from the school district. So what happened was, we had gone to the school and we said, this curriculum that we're using isn't working. It's not working for them. We need them to be in this type of a classroom. We need to have them have this type of support. And we kept getting a no. So we kept going back and we kept saying, I don't know who it is that makes this decision, but here's the data to show that this is what you need. And before every meeting, we would email the team a parent concern letter or a parent input statement before every meeting. And we'd say, we want you to add this to the IEP. Now, the reason that we did that is because we want documentation of us asking for something. We requested prior written notice for any time that they denied something that we were requesting. And we just kept documenting it. But when you document it before a meeting and you say, I want to talk about these things at the meeting, you have to talk about them at the meeting. So we were creating this documentation and this paper trail of us trying to get enough support for this child at school, and the school was just really pushing back. So this last meeting that we went to, I went through back years and years and years, and in my parent concern letter, I used the data that mom took at home, and I said approximately 455 minutes of school this week, this child was sitting there unable to participate due to his learning disability. He's not being appropriately supported at school. And then I went even further than that, and I said, in 2015, here's what his IEP goal was. In 2020, here's what his IEP goal is that's similar. He's made 1 year of progress in 5 years. The next meeting that we went to, all of a sudden the director of special education is there, and they're offering us everything that we could have asked for right now. Sometimes you have to prioritize what is important now and what your long-term goal is. For right now, we have specialized training, we have a new curriculum, we have a para, all these things that the school had said no to for meetings, multiple meetings, and over multiple years. And the change in that was because we have the data at home. They're not at school taking data. They can't see him not engaged in school, not able to participate. Mom is the one that sees that at home because she's his learning coach. The data that mom took at home is what made all of the difference. If we didn't have that data, it wouldn't have made such an impact on the school. The school saw that data and they said, you're right, like we are not doing everything that we need to make sure that this child is receiving a free, appropriate public education, and we're gonna do better. So we left that meeting feeling like it was a really big win. Again, for now, we have some big things planned for this kiddo, but this is such a good move in the right direction now. So I'm really excited for them. So again, I am Nicole Schlechter with Nicole Schlechter Advocacy. I'm really glad you guys are here today. I will be emailing out a replay of this video along with the link to taking data at home and remote learning tips. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me. I frequently attend meetings with clients who are local or not local. I have clients all over the United States. I'm reviewing paperwork, I'm helping you collect data and write all of those letters that you need in order to get to the meeting, ask for what you need, and actually get it. I will see you guys soon. I hope you had a great night, and I'll talk to you next time.